When is the last time you've seen one of these? Probably a long time ago. I remember these way back, oh my gosh, early 70s at least. And this is a Heath HW-202 2-meter FM transceiver. Crystal controlled, a whopping 6 different channels. Unless you have a broken switch like on this one. This one has seen better days. The mic jack is kind of broken. It's got a broken switch here. Of course, I dropped it on the bench. I'm really worried. This is always a real bad sign. You got a Phillips head screw, a Phillips head screw, a Phillips head screw, a flathead screw, and no screw. And that is very, very revealing. Of course, this isn't worth spending a lot of time on. Maybe Heath collectors would like it, but it really has no value to me. But I thought I would open it up and take a look and see just how bad it is. And after I do that, I think I might hook it up to a 12-volt power supply and see if we can get some smoke out of this thing. So, anyway, it'd be kind of fun for nostalgia. I'm going to remove the flathead and Phillips screws and then take the lid off and we'll take a look inside. So stand by for that. I couldn't find a manual for this thing, the HW-202, but I did find a little bit of information. One was a fellow has a website that covers a lot of the old Heath kit gear, and I copied this page out of it. Evidently, according to this sheet anyway, it was manufactured from 73 to 77 for the whopping price of $189.95, which, well, I was a ham for about a year in 1973, and $189 was unobtainable for me back then. Anyway, it's got some information here on it. It uses dual gate MOSFETs in the front end, which is good. Although those early MOSFETs in a kit, boy, I wonder how many of them actually made it into the transceivers. I remember those things, if you looked at them after walking across the floor, you'd blow the gates in them before they had the gate protected diodes in them. 10.7 crystal filter, that's not a real big deal. Receiver sensitivity better than half a microvolt, that's pretty good. Transmitter puts out 10 to 15 watts and will do so indefinitely without failure into an infinite SWR. Why would you want to do that? The existence of a tone burst encoder can be determined by the presence of a row of 4 push buttons above the transmit frequency push buttons. So evidently mine does not have the tone burst. That must have been an option. Here you can see the row of buttons on here. And power requirements: 12.6 to 16 volts at 2.2 amps while transmitting and 200 milliamps while receiving. The HW-202 is polarity protected. Yeah, that was a good idea. That saved a lot. I'm sure that saved an awful lot of transceivers connected backwards up to 12 volts. I wasn't able to find a manual for this rig anywhere. I'm sure they're available to buy, but it isn't really worth it. But I did find a schematic, and I downloaded it. It came in three pages, and I glued them together to make one complete schematic, which is here. And if you look at it, in the transmitter here, you've got your crystals and Q201. And by the way, it's real hard to read these. It's a pretty poor scan of this manual here. But anyway, you can see enough to understand how it works here. You got a crystal oscillator, followed by a buffer, Q205. Then it goes into your tripler, and a doubler, and another doubler, and then an amplifier, and then it's fed down into your power amplifier stage here, and you've got 2 transistors, and the output of that goes through this transmit relay here to the antenna. And it looks like we've got our transmit crystals under this aluminum shield here, and they are switched into the first, your transmit oscillator here, Q201, which is right down here. This is Q201. And the output of Q01 is fed to the first buffer, Q205, which is back here. Q205 and Q206 is a tripler. And of course you tune those with these cans here, these inductors here. And Q208 is another, let's see, that's a doubler, another doubler, Q208, which is back here, Q208, here's a doubler. And that's tuned, looks like L206 here. Q09 is a tripler. And it looks like the output is tuned here. So now we're up to the output frequency, and then that's amplified in Q210. This transistor here, that would be Q210 here. And then that's fed down here to the power amplifier. So this is the exciter, this is your last amplifier, and then that feeds the power amplifier. The output of Q10 is fed down to the power amplifier, and that comes out, it looks like through this coax here to the input of the power amp. This is the power amp board in the back. And you've got your two power transistors here, and of course they amplify the VHF signal up to your maximum output of, what is it, 10 to 14 watts, I guess it is, 10 to 15 watts, and then that is switched through this TR relay here to the antenna port in the back. So that is the exciter section of it. Your antenna jack is here, and that's coupled into your TR relay here and in receive mode. That's connected through this upper contact here, and that runs over to here and feeds your first RF amplifier. So looking on the receiver here, here's your TR relay, and you've got a coax line here that runs over here. And here is Q101. Okay, this is your dual gate MOSFET RF amplifier here. And then that feeds over to Q102, which is the first mixer here. Q16 is your first oscillator, and that's followed by a tripler Q117 and an amplifier Q118, and that would be here. Q116 is here, and Q117 would be here, Q118 here, and then they feed one of the gates of the first mixer here. And then the output of the first mixer goes to the first IF amplifier, IC101, and that would be this op amp here in the back here. This is IC101, and you've got some crystals and some filtering here. You've got a crystal here. See if they're marked here. Okay, filter 101 and filter 102. These are your two filters in the IF. And then after the first IF amplifier, we go into the second mixer, Q103, which is right here. The second oscillator here is Q104 with its crystal here, I believe. Let's see. Yeah, here's the crystal. And that would be here, Y107. And this is your second oscillator, Q104. And then that feeds the second mixer, Q103, which is here. And from there, we go to IC 102. This chip here, this is your demodulator chip here. Yeah, this is a second IF and quad detector. It performs those functions in this chip here. And of course the output of that is fed. It looks like here you got a squelch gate, but it's also fed up here to your amplifier chain. Q11, Q12, 13 drivers, and then Q14 and 15. Yeah, Q14 and Q15 are your two output transistors here, your audio output transistors. And of course they feed the speaker down here. This is all pretty basic circuitry, and there's really no specialized pieces of components in here that you couldn't find. Even like this quad detector may be a little tough, but none of these components are exotic. I mean, you'd be able to pretty much, if you wanted to keep this thing running, probably forever. Be interesting to find the actual manual for it. I looked on the internet, but there was nothing to be found. So I think what I'm going to do next, I think I'll connect this up to a power supply and see if we can get some smoke out of it or get any life out of it. I'm not real optimistic about it. Like I say, this was in a box, a free junket at Hamfest, I believe, if I remember it, a long time ago. Nobody wanted this orphan, so I brought it home with me. So let's hook it up and see what happens. That's coming up next. Okay, before I hook this thing up, I'm gonna check the fuse. Make sure somebody didn't put a 20 amp fuse in. Fuse looks good. That's a good sign. I've seen where if something blows a fuse, what do? You put a bigger fuse in? Isn't that how that works? Okay, I'm going to connect 12 volts up, and now the moment of truth. And we get nothing. Since the unit's dead, there's no sign of life, but I did see an indication that it is pulling some current. So what I'm going to do now is connect up an ammeter, and we'll see how much current draw we have on it. So let's see. It started out at about 650 milliamps, and it's slowly rose up to, well, about 750 milliamps and rising. So I'm wondering here if we have a leaky capacitor. It's kind of acting like it here. Should be, according to what information I have in receive, it should be pulling about 200 mils. I'm going to look at the schematic here, and it's still rising here. Now we're about 850 milliamps, so something is drawing more current as I leave it connected here. Let me turn it off for a second. And let's see if it goes right back here. Yeah, went up to 750, now it's rising up to 850. So I'm thinking whatever's pulling, and we're in receive mode. So something is pulling excessive current. Maybe I should break out the infrared camera, take a look at it. Yeah, we're approaching an amp here, and that's way too high. It should be down here, 200 milliamps. It's completely dead. Receiver's completely dead. So I'm going to put it on the other bench there where I can do a little more in-depth analysis here, and then we'll go from there. So stand by. Power comes in here through the fuse, through the on-off switch. Then it goes onto a filter regulator board here. And the output of that comes down to this jack here. So what I've done, I want to isolate power supply from the circuitry here. So what I did, I disconnected that connection here. A little easier to see on here, I guess. The output of the regulator comes down to that jack. So now I've isolated the power supply regulator here in the input section here by removing that, and the current is very, very low, and also our pilot lamp is working here. So obviously the short, wherever it is past this connector. Now when I connect this connector, if you watch the ammeter over there, I can do it with one hand. There the current goes back up. Yeah, we're over an amp here now. Let me disconnect it. Drops. So we've got a shunt somewhere in the circuitry here. So now we'll have to try to isolate that, see where it is. But we've ruled out the at least we've ruled out the power supply here. I had questioned maybe I had some leaky capacitors. Power supply, which are these two right here. So apparently that's okay. I see some little tantalums in here. Now I'm assuming this is on the receiver section since it's in the receive mode. Here's a couple little tantalum capacitors. Boy, when I see those, here's one over here too. Not that they're guilty, but they sure are high on my list. Boy, if I decide to cannibalize this thing, boy, it's got some really nice coils here I can use in some other circuits. Anyway, let's dig a little deeper. This is kind of hard to see. This drawing is really bad, but pin 2 on this multiple connector here, which is here, this connects in the receive mode through this pin. If you look here, this point here is pin 2, and it's got a cap to ground, which I believe is a tantalum. At least that's the only polarized cap I can see looking under here. But if you look over here, pin 2 runs down onto the receiver board here. So what I did, disconnected these two connectors, and I'm going to measure pin 2 at this point, which gives me on the receiver, and this point, which is on the transmitter. So here's pin 2 connected to the receiver. Here's continuity to ground, and I don't have a short to ground here. But when I come over here, pin 2 is shorted to ground. So this point here has got a direct short to ground. Okay, and this is shown in the receive position. So in the transmit position, this contact grounds this point here. And it's grounded now in the receive position, which is wrong. Here's pin 2 on this connector, and here's pin 2 on this connector. And I have my lovely assistant Patty helping me. Aren't you, Patty? She won't talk. Okay, we're going to go from pin 2, and I'm going to have her touch first this one on top, continuity. Now touch the one on the right. Okay, now touch across both these terminals on the top. Take this one out, take the black one out, touch both of those. Okay, see, these are shorted. It's open at this end. This is a capacitor. That should be an open circuit. So we've got a shorted cap there. Now touch these two and then these two. Okay, now touch the two bottom ones. Touch the two middle ones again. Open circuit. Okay, now touch the two top ones again. Short circuit. Okay, so since it's open here, this side of this capacitor comes to this terminal. That should be an open circuit, and it's shorted. So I'm going to remove that cap. That cap's shorted. There's a short somewhere in there. Anyway, well, I won't show you on the video, Bunny. Thank you to my lovely assistant Patty, who without these measurements could never have been made.
You'll leave that in there, right?
No, I won't. Anyway, stand by for the next step.
Yeah, you will leave that in there because you put the standby.
Once again, it's the attack of the killer tantalums. Shorted. Oh, these things, they never fail to surprise us, do they? Well, let's try it again. See what happens. Oh, that's a good sign. Light's coming on. Well, that's another good sign. Let's try a bow fang. Test 1 2 3. Test 1 2. I'll be darned. Hello, test. Hello, testing 1 2 3. Well, there you go. And this was the culprit on the power amplifier circuit board somewhere here, which I can't see because you can't read the schematic. But anyway, shorted tantalum. Story of my life here. Anyway, the receiver's working, so I wonder if the transmitter. I don't really care about the transmitter, you know. I don't think I'd ever use this thing. It's got a couple nice power transistors on it. Maybe I should salvage those power transistors. How does that sound? Anyway, my whole purpose was mainly to see if this receiver worked, which it does. So, and the current is about right. Yeah, that's about right. Let's see, 300, about 170 milliamps. Turn the volume down here. There was 200 milliamps. That's what the specs call for, and that was about volume open to a pretty low level. So the receiver's working good. I I'd have to find a microphone here. It's a 2-pin mic. I don't think I have any of those. So for now, I'm going to end this video before it gets too long. So we got a receiver. I haven't done any tests on it yet, and it's pretty. This transceiver's pretty rough looking here. It was like I say, it came in a free box. I believe it was at a Hamfest. At the end of the Hamfest, a lot of times you'll see a lot of free boxes. People throw stuff away, and this one had a bad tantalum here which shorted it out. So maybe I'll put it back in a free box and take it to a Hamfest. Let somebody else play with the transmitter. Anyway, I'm going to end it now. So I hope you enjoyed it, got something out of it, and thank you for watching. See you in the next one.